I never thought I'd get humiliated on my own street. 3 houses down from mine. A police cruiser pulled up. Lights flashing, and out stepped the very last person I ever wanted to see with a badge. Karen. Yes, that Karen. The homeowners association Karen who used to write me up for not trimming my hedges straight enough. Now suddenly in uniform, barking orders at me like she'd been waiting her whole life for this. Sir, you ignored my order to move, she shouted, voice sharp enough to cut glass. I was sitting in my wheelchair, still fumbling with a grocery bag on my lap. What order? I just rolled out of the car. For crying out loud, I said, my voice breaking between anger and disbelief. But she didn't let up. Her eyes scanned me up and down, and then she scoffed. Oh, please, don't play that disability card with me. You're perfectly fine. I've seen you walk. What? My heart slammed against my ribs. That single accusation, right there in the middle of the street, was like she ripped open years of pain and shame in one careless sentence. I wanted to scream, but all I managed was a shaky laugh. You've seen me walk, lady. I wish. Neighbors started peeking through their blinds. A couple even came outside, phones in hand. I could hear whispers. That buzz, that crackle of judgment filling the air. It's the same sound you hear when dry leaves crunch under boots. A storm building. I tried to breathe steady. Karen, I have spinal damage. Military service. Cut the act. She barked, slapping her palm against her holster for dramatic effect. You ignored a lawful order and now you're resisting. Resisting? Me? My fingers trembled so hard I nearly dropped the grocery bag. I wasn't resisting. I was just existing. And yet here she was, puffed up with power, trying to paint me as some fraud. For a second, I wanted to just roll away, escape. But then another sound cut through the air. Click. One of the neighbors, Mrs. Hayes, had her phone up. She wasn't just filming. She was live streaming. Karen, you're on camera. She called out. Better think twice. Karen's jaw tightened. Good. Let them all see me exposing liars. Liars. My vision blurred with rage. I could practically taste copper at the back of my throat from how hard I was biting down on words I wanted to scream. Instead, I leaned forward, staring straight at her badge. Do you even know what it means to wear that? Or are you just using it to settle your homeowners association grudges? Gasps echoed. Someone muttered, "Oh damn." She flinched, just for a second. But then her mask snapped back on, smug and unshakable. "Last warning," she snapped. "Stand up, or I'll charge you with obstruction." That was it. That was the breaking point. Stand up. I laughed. Loud, hollow, bitter. "Lady, if I could stand, don't you think I'd have walked away from this circus already?" A hush fell over the crowd. Even the birds seemed to stop mid-chirp. I yanked my medical ID card from my pocket, slapped it against my chest and glared. Spinal cord injury. Permanent. Documented. But hey, keep screaming at me to stand up. Maybe that'll heal me. Karen froze. For the first time, doubt flickered in her eyes. And then came the twist I didn't expect. A familiar black truck rolled up. Out stepped my brother. Still in uniform. Not police. Army. Captain's insignia gleaming. He strode over. Calm but sharp. His presence sucking the air right out of the scene. "What's going on here?" he demanded. His voice steel-lined. Karen straightened, clearly rattled. "This man. He ignored my orders and he's disabled." My brother barked back before she could finish. "You're harassing a veteran with documented injuries. You just crossed a line." The tension snapped like glass shattering. Neighbors murmured. Cameras zoomed in. Karen's face flushed bright red. then drained pale as paper. Still, she stammered. I didn't know. You didn't care. I cut in, my voice low, shaking but deadly steady. You thought you could humiliate me. You thought no one would stand up for me, since I literally can't. But now, everyone sees you. The weight of silence crushed her. Every eye on the block burned into her like spotlights. And then came the final blow. My brother held up his phone. He hadn't just walked into this cold. He'd been watching the live stream on the way over. Department's already been alerted. He said, "They're reviewing this right now. You're finished." Karen's lips trembled, her tough facade cracking like old paint. Wait, I was just... No. My brother cut her off. You were abusing power, and you just showed the whole neighborhood exactly who you are. Her radio crackled. A supervisor's voice called her back to the station. The way her shoulders sagged, the way her hands shook. She already knew. This was the end of her uniform, the end of her borrowed authority. She walked back to her cruiser. No swagger left, just the hollow footsteps of someone who thought they'd won the game, until the rules flipped. As she drove off, neighbors clapped, slow at first, then swelling louder. Some even came over to squeeze my shoulder, their sympathy real, their voices trembling with outrage. "We're with you," they said. She went too far. I should have felt triumphant, but honestly, I just felt tired. So damn tired. I let out a long sigh, leaned back in my chair and whispered. About time the truth came out. But deep down, a question lingered. Why does it always take humiliation? Proof. Public fight. Just to be believed. That night, I replayed the footage. Karen's voice, her sneer, her disbelief. It all echoed in my head like static. But then came the moment where she cracked and my brother stood firm. That, right there, was the truth carved into stone. And when the official notice came days later, Karen suspended pending investigation. Her badge revoked. It wasn't joy I felt. It was justice. Bitter. Overdue. But real. So here's my story. Karen thought she could break me, expose me as a fraud. Instead, she exposed herself. And I'll leave you with this. What kind of world are we building if people like Karen are given power without compassion? Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. They didn't just trespass. They bulldozed a road through my orchard. And worst of all, they smiled while doing it. It all started with the sisters Marlene and Connie, two bleach-blonde hurricanes in yoga pants, who had somehow convinced themselves they ran the entire county. They'd bought the property uphill from me, a hideous stucco box they called a modern Tuscan escape. And within a month, I was getting daily emails about things like my unmaintained tree lines and lack of curb appeal. Except this is a farm. There is no curb. And my trees are apple trees. They grow wild. I wish the story stopped there. God, I wish it had just been nagging. But no. One Thursday morning, I heard the low growl of an engine. Not just one, several. My heart skipped. I stepped outside, coffee still in hand, and nearly dropped the mug. There was a bulldozer in my orchard. Not one, two. I ran down the slope, my boots catching in the grass. Dust was already floating in the air like war smoke. Trees I'd pruned myself last fall, saplings from my late father's grafts, were lying snapped in half like twigs. I screamed. "What the hell is going on?" I shouted. Marlene turned around from her SUV at the edge of the destruction, big sunglasses and an even bigger grin. "Oh hey Jack, thought we'd catch you before work. It's just a quick easement project, nothing personal." "You're paving a road through my land. That's trespassing." She blinked. Connie chimed in, arms folded like this was a PDA meeting. "We filed the paperwork with the HOA, it's already approved." I stared at them. "The HOA doesn't own my land. This is zoned agricultural. You're not even in my jurisdiction." Marlene's lips twitched. "Well, that sounds like a you problem." And then she turned away. I swear, I heard something inside me crack. They didn't just take land. They ripped out 10 years of work. Apple trees I'd raised from bare root. Irrigation lines buried by hand. Wildlife pathways for foxes and barn owls. They flattened all of it like it was an afterthought. I called the sheriff naturally. Filed a report. Took pictures. But when I drove into town to check on the status the next day, I got this dismissive look from the deputy on desk duty. "It's a civil matter," he said, eyes not even lifting from his sandwich. "Civil? Civil?" Someone had stolen part of my farm and poured concrete over it. You ever feel that kind of helpless anger that tightens behind your eyes? Like you're 1 second away from punching a wall or breaking into tears, maybe both. I went home in a haze. That's when I saw the new sign they'd installed. Private access road, HOA members only. My vision tunneled. But here's the part they didn't know. My brother, Max, works in state law enforcement. He teaches tactical training. And 3 months earlier, we'd been joking over beers about turning my old barn into a local range for off-duty cops, just an idea at the time. Now, it wasn't a joke. It was a plan. I called Max that night, told him what happened. I could hear the slow inhale on the other end. "They really poured asphalt on your land? Right through the heirloom row. Okay, we'll need permits. But I know who to talk to." And that was the start of their downfall. The next 2 weeks were pure silence on my part. I didn't rage. I didn't send a lawyer's letter. No confrontation. Just paperwork. I met with zoning officials, filed a land use reassignment request, and documented everything, especially the damage they caused. See, the Karens didn't know the back quarter of my land had been zoned for flexible use due to an old forestry clause. With Max's help, we filed for an official designation. Certified Law Enforcement Firing Range. Oh, and guess where the entrance would be? Exactly where they laid their illegal road. 2 months later, while Marlene was hosting a wine and charcuterie HOA beautification planning brunch, 3 squad cars pulled up the very road they'd bulldozed. An officer rolled out a sign. Authorized police training site active hours. 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. The sound of gunfire began at 6:01 a.m. Sharp, rhythmic cracks echoing through the valley like thunderclaps. I don't think Marlene's gluten-free fig tart survived the first volley. By 6:10, I saw her come storming down the hill, robe flapping, hair wild. "You can't do this!" she shrieked, barely audible over the bang 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 in the background. I sipped my coffee from the porch. "Do what? Use my land for authorized state training? Fully licensed. Want to see the permits?" Her face flushed the color of a beet. Connie came next. "This is harassment. You're targeting us." "Nope," I said. "This is what we call cohabiting with consequences." They tried to get the HOA to intervene. Didn't work. They tried to file a noise complaint. The city threw it out. Training ranges are exempt. Then they tried to sue me for emotional distress. And that was the twist. Because during discovery, their lawyer submitted evidence that included drone footage of their property. Footage that accidentally showed their contractors trespassing, digging, and paving without consent. Boom! Their entire case collapsed. Worse, I countersued for damages to trees, irrigation, soil compaction, and crop loss. Not only did I have documentation, but I had video from a wildlife camera that caught the exact moment one of their bulldozers drove over my apple saplings. They settled. Quietly, but not cheaply. I reinvested the payout into upgrading the range and building a memorial corner for my dad, where the heirloom tree used to stand. And the cherry on top. Last month, Max held a full-day K9 unit demo on site. The sound system echoed barks and gunshots all across their brunch deck. I saw one of the HOA board members nearly choke on a mimosa trying to escape. And through all of it, I didn't lay a finger on them. I just let the paperwork speak. You'd think they'd learn, right? But nah. Last week, I heard Marlene was trying to start a petition to reclaim community peace. I printed a copy, framed it, and hung it in the training office next to our range rules. In bright red ink, I wrote, "Peace is earned. And every time I hear that first shot ring out in the morning, I smile. Like I said, they paved a road through my orchard. But I turned it into the one place they could never walk again. And here's where the irony tastes sweeter than my late harvest apples. The Karen sisters didn't just lose a court battle. They lost their status, their smug control, and best of all, the very road they bulldozed through my orchard now operates 6 days a week with a full tactical training schedule. Every morning, like clockwork, the squad SUVs roll in. Engines hum. Targets flip. Brass shells hit the ground with a ping-ping-ping like a metronome of karma. Marlene started parking her car 3 blocks away just to avoid the sound. Connie? She put her house up for sale after a particularly intense SWAT simulation made her drop an entire tray of kombucha shooters. But here's the kicker: they can't do anything about it. Why? Because the lawsuit they filed against me backfired so spectacularly that not only did they lose, but the judge issued a permanent injunction preventing them from interfering with any legal use of my property. The very lawsuit they thought would shut me down became the anchor that sank them. And now, that HOA road is state patrolled, monitored 24/7, and classified under critical infrastructure. So go ahead, Marlene. File another complaint. Call the mayor. Bring your clipboard. You built the road, I just gave it a purpose you could never erase. Sometimes revenge doesn't need fists, just zoning codes and a little lawful persistence. And if you thought this tale of lawsuit-fueled karma was juicy, just wait until you hear how I turned their backyard koi pond into a registered flood control basin. But hey, that story's for another video. Subscribe now, and don't miss what happens when another Karen thinks the law doesn't apply to her until it literally drives through her lawsuit. I've never heard 15 kids go that silent all at once. The air froze, frosting dripped off the cake in Karen's hands, and the sheriff's voice cut through the summer chatter like a whip. Ma'am, put the cake down. My jaw? Somewhere on the lawn right next to the crushed party hat. It was supposed to be a simple Saturday, balloons tied to the fence, grill smoking in the background, music low enough not to set off the HOA noise police. But this was Willow Creek, and if there's one thing you can count on, it's that Karen, our self-appointed protector of neighborhood standards, would sniff out any joy and try to choke it. She'd been stalking the party since noon, sunglasses low, lips pursed like she was about to issue a parking citation. Bobby! She had hissed earlier, tapping her phone like she was documenting a crime scene. Did you file the proper community event notice with the board? My brother, the birthday boy's dad, just laughed and kept flipping burgers. Karen, it's a kid's party, not a rock concert. Oh, if only he knew what she was cooking up behind that fake smile. The real storm hit when the cake arrived. 3 tiers of chocolate and cream, with fondant dinosaurs stomping across a green frosting jungle. The kids gasped, parents clapped, and for one brief, glittery moment, everything was perfect. Then Karen struck. 1 second the cake was on the table. The next, she had it in her arms, backing away like she'd just rescued it from a fire. This cake is stolen property, she declared, her voice sharp enough to make the balloons tremble. I recognize this, it's from the bakery where my friend had an order go missing this morning. We all froze. Someone laughed, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. She started yelling about fraud and police reports, her face red and her hands gripping the cake so hard a fondant tea. Rex lost its tail. My nephew, the birthday boy, looked at her like she'd just kicked his puppy. But it's my cake, he whispered. Karen's performance was Oscar-worthy. She pulled out her phone, pretended to be on the line with 911, and kept loudly insisting she was retrieving stolen goods, as a good citizen. Then she spun some wild tale about my brother forging receipts to claim someone else's cake order. Forged receipts for a cake. And here's the part that makes my stomach turn. Even now she actually had fake paperwork. Pulled it right out of her tote bag like she'd been waiting for this day. It had the bakery's logo at the top, some scribbled signature, and an order number. The only problem? My sister-in-law had the real receipt, paid in full, with matching order details, and the bakery owner was literally standing at the party because she's a friend of ours. The crowd started to shift, murmurs rising. The bakery owner stepped forward. Karen, "That's my handwriting on the real order," she said firmly. "And that's your handwriting on the fake one." You could practically hear the record scratch. Karen's eyes darted left, right. "This is a setup," she barked. "They've been out to get me ever since I filed that lawsuit about the playground safety violations." My God, the mental gymnastics. Then came the twist no one saw coming. Sheriff Dalton, the one she'd been bragging about knowing personally? Yeah, turns out he'd been on the porch for 2 minutes, just watching her dig her own grave. He stepped forward, voice steady. "Karen Matthews, you're under arrest for theft and filing a false police report." The kids gasped, a few even clapped. My nephew's jaw dropped. Karen tried to back away, still holding the cake, but Dalton just sighed and took it from her. "Sheriff, you don't understand," she stammered, hands shaking. "I was trying to prevent fraud." "Ma'am, you committed it," he cut in. And that was it. Cuffs clicked. The cake went back on the table. And the party resumed, but with everyone whispering like we'd just witnessed the climax of a TV drama. Later, we'd find out she had a whole pattern forged HOA violation letters, fake maintenance invoices, even a doctored email from the county inspector. All part of some twisted plan to make herself the neighborhood's hero by manufacturing problems only she could solve. That's when it hit me she wasn't just annoying. She was dangerous, and she'd finally pushed too far. The parents started sharing stories in little knots around the yard how Karen once accused a neighbor of poisoning her roses, only for it to turn out she'd sprayed them with the wrong chemical. How she tried to block a disabled veteran from installing a ramp because it wasn't in the aesthetic guidelines. The more they talked, the more I realized this wasn't just about a cake. It was about control. And you know what? The cake thing broke the dam. The HOA board, which had always been weirdly protective of her, couldn't ignore an arrest in front of 15 witnesses, half of them under the age of 10. Within a week, they were holding an emergency meeting, and for once, the residents came in droves. Karen didn't show. She sent some rambling letter about being the victim of a smear campaign, blaming biased law enforcement and jealous neighbors. But the sheriff's report, the bakery owner's statement, and the forged paperwork in evidence made her words crumble faster than her reputation. As I sat there listening to the vote to remove her from the board, I couldn't help but think about the look on her face when Dalton took the cake from her hands. Not shock, not shame, just disbelief that she wasn't getting away with it this time. The lawsuit she bragged about, it evaporated. The county dismissed it as baseless, and rumor had it the DA was reviewing her past complaints for potential fraud charges. But the cruel irony, the karma cherry on top, was that the only thing Karen had truly stolen that day was her own dignity. And she'd done it in front of 15 kids who would remember it forever. The weeks that followed felt almost peaceful. No sudden HOA inspection notes taped to doors. No grainy phone pictures of rule violations appearing in group chats. But underneath that calm, something else was brewing. Word spread that Karen had been officially charged with theft, filing a false police report, and thanks to her forged cake receipt, an additional count of presenting falsified documents. And the kicker? The county prosecutor filed a civil lawsuit to recover costs from all her bogus complaints. I thought that would be the end of it, but then came the twist, the one no one, not even me, could have seen coming. It was Helen. Sweet, 72-year-old Helen from across the street, the one who always wore bright garden gloves and claimed she didn't get involved in politics. She walked right up to my brother one morning, clutching a manila folder. Inside, copies of emails, invoices, and board memos, all proving Karen had been using Helen's name and HOA login credentials to file violation notices against neighbors. She'd literally been impersonating Helen to keep her own hands clean. When I asked Helen why she came forward now, she just sighed. "I saw her get arrested with that cake in her hands," she said softly. "And I realized if she's willing to lie to a child's face, she'll burn anyone." Those documents sealed the deal. Not only did the HOA board vote unanimously to strip Karen of any future leadership roles, but Helen's testimony helped the county add an impersonation charge to her case. Suddenly, what had started as a ridiculous birthday party fiasco was shaping up to be a full-on courtroom reckoning. The day of her preliminary hearing, people gathered outside the courthouse like it was the town fair. Even the bakery owner showed up, holding a tray of cupcakes with little justice flags stuck in the frosting. When Karen stepped out of her car flanked by a very tired-looking public defender, she glanced around as if expecting sympathy. She didn't get it. Inside, she tried one last performance. Tears, shaky voice, talking about how she only wanted to protect the community. But the prosecutor laid out the evidence: the forged receipt, the impersonation, the emails, and Helen's testimony like stacking bricks into an unshakable wall. By the end, the judge ordered her to stand trial on all charges, and the HOA's countersuit for damages moved forward. The word lawsuit suddenly wasn't just a threat she threw around to scare people. It was her reality now, and it had real teeth. As she walked out, I caught her eye. For the first time, she didn't glare, didn't smirk. She just looked small. I went home that night, sliced into the leftover birthday cake we'd saved in the freezer, and thought about how quickly lies can collapse when the truth stands its ground. If you want more unbelievable but true HOA drama and courtroom karma stories like this, subscribe to my YouTube channel. You won't want to miss what's coming next. They thought they were slick. Two hoakaren sisters, identical fake smiles, identical thirst for control, sent unlicensed guards up to my rooftop under the lie of a noise complaint. But I knew it wasn't about noise, it was about power. You ever hear boots scraping across your roof in the middle of the afternoon while sipping cold coffee on a quiet Sunday? I did. I thought it was a raccoon. But not through my upstairs window. I saw two men in black cargo pants, flashlights clipped to their belts, tiptoeing across my roof tiles like this was some damn spy movie. One of them slipped and cursed under his breath. "What the hell?" I muttered, pushing the window open. That's when I locked eyes with the taller one. His face went pale. Mine didn't, because I wasn't confused. I was pissed. "Get off my roof before you get acquainted with gravity," I snapped, voice cutting through the hum of cicadas. He stammered something about HOA inspection authority, but my blood was already boiling. "Haga una inspección." On my roof. No notice.
No permission.
No damn clue what they were even looking for. And they didn't realize yet they had picked the wrong guy to trespass on. I'm Elijah Grant, 38, retired military intelligence, counter-surveillance specialist. And I film everything. 30 minutes earlier, I'd caught the HOA sisters, Melanie and Brooke Lancaster, standing across the street in their matching pastel suits and oversized sunglasses, whispering with the head of their little HOA security committee. Melanie had glanced at my house, sneered, and muttered something into her phone. I didn't think much of it. Now, that memory flashed back like lightning. I rushed to my front lawn and looked up. "Hey, you two want a lawsuit or a hospital bill? Get down," I shouted. One of them froze. The other waved awkwardly like this was a misunderstanding, like they just climbed up to admire the view. Unbelievable. Then Melanie strutted across the street like a reality TV villain. "Mr. Grant, lower your voice. These are authorized inspections. We received multiple complaints about structural instability on your solar panels. Our HOA bylaws allow urgent investigation to protect neighborhood safety." "Really?" I folded my arms. "Show me the clause. Show me the license. Show me a single damn thing that makes it legal to send random men onto my private roof with no warrant, no notice, and no ID." Melanie blinked. Brooke caught up, adjusting her silk scarf with theatrical annoyance. "This is for your own good," she added in that sickly sweet Karen tone. I laughed once, short and sharp. "Oh, you have no idea what you just walked into." See, I'd been documenting HOA overreach for months. Tampered ballots in board elections. Forged maintenance records. HOA funds that somehow always ended up in Brooke's landscaping company account. And now, illegal surveillance. False fines. And this rooftop stunt? This was the final match tossed into the powder keg. My hands shook slightly, not from fear, but adrenaline, as I walked back inside and pulled up the video feed. Dual drones, one tucked beneath my chimney, the other hidden behind a weatherproof vent. I had multiple angles of the two men climbing over my fence, stepping onto my patio, and hauling themselves onto the shingles using a grappling hook. Yes, a grappling hook. You can't make this stuff up. I copied the footage to a flash drive, popped it into my laptop, and typed up a statement for the police. But that wasn't enough. I wanted to see Karen fall in real time. So I walked back out and said, "Ladies, you just orchestrated trespassing, harassment, and illegal search. You'll hear from my lawyer." Melanie crossed her arms. "We are the law here." That's when I took out my phone and hit play. The video showed the men sneaking in from the side alley. Not a word was spoken as they stepped over my no trespassing signs. One looked straight at the camera as he climbed the drainpipe. Melanie's jaw clenched. Brooke turned a shade paler than her peach blouse. "You want to keep going?" I asked, tone low. They didn't, but they didn't back off either. The next morning, I woke up to a bright orange violation notice duct taped to my garage. Non-compliant structure. Demand TO remove unapproved surveillance equipment. Fine, $2,000. Unreal. They were retaliating. They didn't know I'd already submitted the footage to my lawyer and the city. I printed out the letter, circled the phrase, non-compliant structure with a red Sharpie, and pinned it right under my American flag on the front porch. Beneath it, I added a sticky note. "Smile, you're on camera." The neighborhood buzzed like a kicked beehive. Some folks avoided eye contact. Others whispered, "Good for you," as they passed. The Karens? They doubled down. That Friday, I returned home to see a city inspection van in front of my house. A city official stood beside Melanie and Brooke, both of them gesturing wildly at my solar panels. Melanie waved a printed photo grainy and badly angled, trying to argue that my panels were non-standard and dangerously overpowered. I stepped out calmly, holding a clipboard of my own. Full permits, original HOA approval, dated and signed. Ando, look, an email from Brooke approving the exact same model a year ago. Fraud. Documented. The inspector looked between us, then quietly said, "I think we're done here," and left. Brooke snapped, "You can't intimidate us, Elijah." I stared. Intimidate? Lady, I'm just responding. You're the ones who climbed my roof like burglars. That night, a neighbor slipped me a manila envelope. Inside, screenshots of an email chain between Brooke, Melanie, and a shady contractor. The subject line? "We'll forge it if we have to." My stomach dropped. This was bigger than I thought. I took that envelope straight to my lawyer the next morning. He scanned the documents, raised an eyebrow, and muttered, "They're screwed." The email thread was damning clear evidence of Brooke and Melanie plotting to forge inspection documents and falsify safety violations to justify fining or removing residents they didn't like. "They planned this," I said quietly. "Not just with me. Probably half this neighborhood." He nodded grimly. "And now, thanks to this footage and the emails, we have grounds for a class action lawsuit." By the end of the week, 7 other neighbors had come forward. One had security footage of HOA board members snooping in her backyard. Another had a letter fining her for too many wind chimes, when she didn't own any. It was a pattern control, intimidation, and threats backed by forged policies or fake complaints. I released my own video too, a simple, calm voiceover on top of the rooftop footage. I detailed the illegal entry, the surveillance equipment Brooke tried to label as non-compliant, and the forged documents we uncovered. I blurred the faces of the guards for now but left everything else raw and unedited. Within hours, it exploded. Thousands of views. Comments like, "HOA tyranny has to end," and "This guy's a hero." One viewer even pointed out that Melanie had been involved in a similar HOA scandal in Florida years ago, swept under the rug with hush money. Brooke tried to sue me for defamation. The judge laughed it out of court. You know what happens when you bring a fake lawsuit to someone who spent 12 years uncovering enemy psyops? You lose. Badly. And when our lawsuit officially hit the courts, backed by video, emails, and over a dozen resident testimonies, the Lancaster sisters resigned from the HOA that night. They tried to flee accountability, posting a passive-aggressive goodbye on the HOA website about toxic community behavior. We screenshotted that too. For the archive, the HOA board was dissolved and restructured within 2 weeks. The guards? Turned out they weren't even licensed, just hired muscle from a security firm Brooks' company part-owned. She's now facing criminal charges. Me? I'm just back on my porch, watching my new legal solar panels soak in the sun and listening to wind chimes I actually own. Sometimes karma takes time. Sometimes it comes with sound effects and subpoenas. And if you want more HOA takedowns and real justice stories, hit that subscribe button on my YouTube channel because the next lawsuit is already loading.